All right, so a quick review. Today we are going to talk about adding and subtracting. We're going to do both for both fractions and decimals. Okay, let's start with fractions. To add or subtract fractions, the key here is that you have to get a common denominator before you can add or subtract fractions. So make the denominators the same by multiplying both the numerator and the denominator by the same factor. Okay, so it's technically you're multiplying by 1, but perhaps you're multiplying the top and the bottom by the same number, which equals 1, in order to get a common denominator. You cannot add or subtract without a common denominator. Okay? Once you have that common denominator, let's talk about what to do. Let's do this one together. I'm going to sort of use this as our practice. What would the common denominator be? It's also known as the least common factor, or the least common multiple, sorry. What would it be, Sam? 6. So we want to get both of these denominators to equal 6, which means we're going to multiply by a common factor on the top and bottom to get it to 6. What would we multiply 2 over 3 by, Finn? 2. So we're going to multiply the top by 2, and we're going to multiply the bottom by 2. 3 times 2 is 6. 2 times 2 is 4. So our common denominator is 6. We get 4 over 6 for our first fraction, and we will add. Now we need to get 1/2 to have a common denominator of 6. What would we multiply 1/2 by? Alexis? 3. So we're going to multiply by 3 on the top and 3 on the bottom. 2 times 3 is 6. 1 times 3 is 3. Okay, now that we have a common denominator, we'll go to the next slide. We add or subtract the numerators only. So when we have our common denominator, we add or subtract the numerators only. We leave the denominator exactly the same. So this would look like, if we're pulling from our last slide, 4, 6 plus 3, 6. The denominator stays the same, and we add the numerators. 4 plus 3 is 7. Okay, you can either leave this as an improper fraction, but sometimes, I will always accept it as an improper fraction, but sometimes we've seen this on Big Ideas. They will want it as a mixed number. So you also need to be able to convert mixed numbers to fractions and fractions to mixed numbers. Okay, if you need more help with that, I will send you a video, so email me. I'm not going to go over this right now. This is like getting down into like 3rd grade, so I don't really want to spend a lot of time on that. 7 6 as a mixed number would be 1 and 1/6. So you see how many times the denominator goes into the numerator, and then how many are left over. Okay, so you could put this, or you could put this. Those are both correct. All right. And then, of course, simplify the fraction. So if you have something like, for example, 2 over 6, if that was your answer, you need to simplify that. These are both divisible by 2. So our simplified fraction is 1/3. So you always have to give your fraction in simplest form before you say that you're done. Oops, sorry. Let me go back. Let me erase that. Okay. All right, so what that means is that your fraction's in simplest form. Sometimes a mixed number if it is required. Like I said, I don't care if it's a mixed number or not. I prefer an improper fraction. But some cases, like especially if you're doing online work, will force you to make a mixed number. So you have to just be prepared to be able to do that. Just always be careful that you watch the operation, right? If it's addition, make sure that you add. And if it's subtraction, make sure that you subtract. it's easy to forget and do the wrong operation. So just pay attention to what sign is in the middle. To add and subtract decimals, here's our steps. Number 1, line up the decimal points vertically. So up and down, make sure the decimal points are lined up, one on top of the other. And then add placeholder zeros if needed so that you don't get thrown off in terms of what you're adding and subtracting. Bless you. For example, if these were our decimals, we would want to line these up with the decimals on top of one another. 13.6, be careful of your operation. This is addition, plus 25.1. So when you're adding or subtracting decimals, line the decimals up. You want them to be right on top of one another for addition or subtraction. Always pay close attention to your operation. Make sure you're doing the right operation. Step 2, then you add and subtract each column. So we work one column at a time. We start from the right, so the farthest to the right, and then we work left, whether we're adding or subtracting. So with this, we would start with our farthest right column, right? Bring down your decimal. So that is also going to stay in the same place in your answer. And then we just add. 6 plus 1 is 7. 3 plus 5 is 8. 1 plus 2 is 3. And this would be your answer. Okay? Bless you. Okay, be careful also when we're adding. We need to be careful with carrying tens places or, tens places when we're adding. Okay, you always carry your tens digit if it's bigger than 9, right? We have to carry a number into the next column or borrow from the next biggest digit if we are subtracting. For example, if we were adding, and this was our addition, we would say 5 plus 8 is 13. We write the 3, we carry the 1. Okay? And then 8 plus 3 is 11, plus 1 is 12. So we put the 2, we carry the 1, and these would be placeholder zeros. And then 0 plus 0 is 0 plus 1. So you have to be careful of carrying when you're adding and borrowing when you're subtracting. Okay? So remember, when we subtract, we start with the farthest right. So we're going to start over here. 5 minus 1 is 4. 6 minus 8, we can't do that, so we borrow. We take 1 from the 3, make it a 2, and we add 10 to the 6. So we get 16 minus 8. Then we can subtract. And then 2 minus 2, bless you, is 0. Bring down our decimal. So our answer is 0.084. Okay, so make sure we carry our numbers properly and borrow properly, depending on if we're adding or subtracting.